The overtone of the media and society since the commencement of hostilities against the nation of Iraq in 2003 has been support the troops. From the fact that anybody who pretty much puts forth any type of dissident thought is, that's the phrase, they get sprayed at them, all the way to the fact that almost every newscast you saw for a while, and still seeing a lot of cases, is completely saturated with patriotic imagery, the American flag drapes behind everyone. But it's very easy to say support the troops, but it's very, very difficult to face what the troops face and then support the troops. And what we find when it comes to one of the primary obstacles, or actually just tragic instances and facing females in the military sexual trauma, what we find is it's very endemic and inculcated that they don't get any support, whether that be from the aforementioned media pundits who couldn't wait for everybody to get their blitzkrieg-esque technicals into Baghdad, to even to some people who would ostensibly be seen as progressive. Military sexual trauma, incidentally, isn't anything new in the military. It's something that female soldiers reported in Vietnam. There was the tailhook scandal of the early 1990s. There was also the scandal at an Aberdeen Army base. So it's not anything new. And military sexual trauma is defined as sexual harassment, sexual assault, or rape in the confines of the military. It's very difficult for these female survivors to report on rape. And that's not just, or any kind of sexual harassment or trauma, essentially because of the hierarchical, close-knit organizational structure of the military. But it's also important to note that that's also something that happens with rape in general. For instance, according to the Department of Justice, 59% of rapes in non-military society go unreported due to unsympathetic police, survivor blaming thought processes, and just, blatant fear. This is going to be a serious thing facing females in the military, because military sexual trauma often leads to post-traumatic stress disorder, or PSTD, post-stress traumatic disorder, rather. There's a lot of acronyms to deal with here, and I apologize if I ever get any confused. But there's 160,000 female soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan, and MST, military sexual trauma, leads to much greater trauma disorders than the normal trauma associated with combat, according to pretty much everybody involved in the study of rape and military sexual trauma. A 2003 report by the Department of Defense showed that nearly a third of a sample of female vets wanting Veterans Affairs help had experienced rape or attempted rape. Out of that third, 37% said they had been raped multiple times, and 14% said they had been gang raped during their tenure in the armed services. A VA study after the Gulf War displayed that sexual assault and harassment increases significantly during wartime, and found victims of sexual assault more likely to develop PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, than in combat exposure, as I said. Now, these studies and various citizens groups putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the DoD did result in 2005, where the Department of Defense established a sexual assault prevention and response program, and reports of sexual assaults that year jumped 40%. And it's the unfortunate thing is that you can't really determine whether increased reporting really does any good, or whether that's necessarily indicative that whether that's indicative that a program is doing any good, because like I said, there's so many societal reasons why rape goes unreported, and many more societal reasons why rape goes unreported within the confines of the military social structure. It is important to know that out of 3,038 investigations of sexual assault in 2004 and 2005 that went all the way to criminal investigations, only about 1/10 resulted in court-martial proceedings. I tried to say proceedings and procedures at the same time, which is physically impossible. Jessica Popovac, my friend, wrote an article recently for In These Times called "Silenced in the Barracks," and when she talked with Susan Avila Smith, and this is a great article, and I recommend that everybody go and find this article and get some more information on this topic that stuff you won't even get from the video, from this video. When she was talking to Susan Avila Smith, who founded Women Organizing Women, military sexual assault survivors group, she tells them to keep quiet. She tells them not to say anything to anybody when she talks to them until she can engage in procedures to get them out. She says she has to do so, and it breaks her heart to do so, but she says that every time they open their mouths, they're put in danger, particularly with the case of Louderback in the excuse me, in the Carolinas, who was murdered by the person she had accused of raping her. And that guy, incidentally, they still haven't found him. From what I understand, he's possibly still in Mexico. And Pumpavac goes on to say that despite attempts by the Sexual Prevention and Response Office, and these attempts have included workshops, special trainings and seminars, websites, and the establishment of response coordinators at major bases, most military women are still saying it's not enough. Helen Benedict of Salon.com, and she wrote another excellent article that I strongly suggest that you read. She said that one of the new provisions of the SAPR, sexual assault, Prevention and Response Office, was that they engage in what's called restricted reporting, which did enable females to engage in the veneer of anonymous reporting on men who sexually assaulted or raped them. But in order to take advantage of this restricted reporting, one still had to divulge their rank, gender, age, race, service, and the date, time of the assault. And again, inside the close-knit, very, very highly hierarchized and structured social systems of the military, people would find out. It's not enough to say that you can report anonymously, but then force them to give up that information, which, like I said, as information can travel so fast within those close-knit circles, people would find out, which would lead to what experts would refer to as the second rape, which I'll get into a little bit more later, which is, also, it's important to note that our SAPR guidelines, women are encouraged to report rapes to chaplains who have no rape counseling whatsoever. And numerically speaking, if you are a woman in the military and you do decide to report sexual assault or rape to a superior, your commander, the chances are statistically that you are going to be reporting this rape or sexual assault to a man. And rape crisis counselors in the non-military world all agree almost to a person that this just doesn't work, that women survivors need to talk to other women about this because for obvious reasons, especially when the trauma and the sexual assault has first commenced. The Denver Post, again, following in line with the supporting our troops, the Denver Post reported that troops facing sex offenses and sexual assault related offenses, get job-related punishments about 5 times as often as criminal charges are brought up. These are administrative charges, including administrative punishments, including letters of admonishment, loss of rank, loss of pay, sometimes forced transfer. In part two, we'll get into a little bit more of why the system currently in place in the military just is not doing enough to support our female troops in the unfortunate circumstance that they would face sexual assault.